So when I was 16, my dad took me to India for the first time since I was a baby. It was one of those March break trips. It was like about 2 weeks we went. And I was ready to experience anything, whatever that adventure would be. I got sick right away. As soon as I got off the plane, I got sick. And it wasn't because I ate something or because I drank something. It was because I couldn't handle what I was seeing and hearing. I had not realized for the first 16 years of my life that we were the elite of the world. And that really, really bothered me. That idea that what I was seeing and experiencing, I couldn't handle, but it was also much more of the world was like that than less. So I never considered myself elite or an elitist, but just by nature of growing up in Mississauga, I was. And it bothered me so much that I said I could never come back here as a tourist to exploit this kind of thing and just visit. If I came back, I had to address this issue. And I knew that I could do that through work. I wanted to make movies that said something about the world. My screenwriting prof said, and I stick to this, and it's such a simplistic way of looking at things, but I don't care. He said, writers write because they're not happy with the way things are in the world. And I can't find an example that goes against that. So for me, every time I write, it comes out of a discontent of something. And as I grow, I try to keep in mind that discontent doesn't come out of me and my issues per se with my life. It has to do more with something that's relevant to all of us. I just feel like it really is such a powerful communicator, right? And it's a way to literally like stick a straw into somebody's cerebral cortex emotionally. If you can access that through cinema, and you can make them just feel something, right, against apathy, that's the power of this. So it's all about trying to fight apathy, because that to me that's the thing that we should all be fighting, because apathy is what will allow, temperature to get hotter, for instance. That's the thing that has to be resisted. My brother Sean had written this short story, Amal, and he gave it to me. And I read it, and it really, really moved me. Just blew me away, especially the ending. In fact, it addressed those things I was talking about in my India trip. And I'd kind of put that away for a while as I trained myself to make movies. And this came, and it hit me so hard. And so when I said, okay, I think it's time for me to go back to India and do this as a short film. And it was more of a life thing. As I started making more and more short films and then selling them and going to festivals and kind of seeing the marketplace out there and how it works, I started realizing that I was getting a lot of goodwill based on the quality of the shorts in terms of how people were consuming them. And I realized, okay, well, if I'm going to do a feature, I get one shot at that. And that goodwill that was being shown to me, I knew that would go away as soon as I made one mediocre feature film. I realized that Amal was the one that was hitting them. It was connecting the most to audiences, and it was also the one that ended up being most personal to me. It's something that my brother had brought out in a way. Let's do this as a feature. Cause that was an experiment. Let's do it again, full force. Really put our heart and soul into this. Explore what this means to us. We felt if we're gonna go into the marketplace with our first feature, let it be ours. Let it be completely homegrown. Let it be meaningful, and let's make it the best we can possibly make it. Otherwise, we're never going to get that chance again. So that transition happened automatically. It was never, let's make a short with the intention of making this a feature, ever. Each project I do is for the sake of itself, and I actually approach it as if it's the last project I'll ever do. In the case of Amal, the whole point of it was to challenge the audience to reevaluate what their notion of wealth was and notion of success was. And using a character like Amal, like a rickshawala. So for us to compare our notions of wealth to what other people have, to me, is silly. And that is unfortunately what I think the basic principle of our whole society is founded on now, economically. So to me, the point of the movie was to challenge people to reevaluate that. I really think it's important to know the heart of the film before you show it to producers and financiers and story editors, anybody else, to be honest, because that is where you decide what the mission is. And the mission to me should be, if it's your script, it should be very personal. And that's separate from unique. Obviously you want something to be unique, but in terms of if I feel really strongly about what I want this to say, that to me is the heart, then any contribution that anyone else is going to make, I should be able to see rather clearly whether that contribution will help or hinder the project. Whereas if I'm not sure what the intent is, and I show it to a financier or producer or story editor, and they give me notes that they feel really strongly about, I'm not going to know whether those are appropriate. When you're having your script destroyed by your collaborators, I think it's really important to be patient, to listen to what everyone is saying, to keep in mind that they're trying to make it better. If you've chosen to work with these people, that means they are in fact, and you've gotten past that point of they know what you're trying to do. Then it's a question of they're trying to make this better. They may be misguided, they may not be. They may see something you don't. Chances are they probably do, especially at the onset. And I always tell myself, even if they've given me the prescription to fix it, that may not be right, but chances are they found a sore spot. They found a problem that needs to be fixed. Maybe the way to fixing it, the solution, that's within me, and I got to figure that out, and I got to do my soul searching. The fact is they found something. And once I've done my soul searching, if I come to the conclusion that yes, I have a solution that's better, or something we can talk about and come up with something, or I don't, and I'm really comfortable with this, I've still gone through that process. I'm not rejecting what you're saying. I've thought about it, and I don't think it works for what I'm trying to do because this. And that also leads to if you're directing your film, working with actors, because actors will scrutinize everything. If you have the right actors, they will question everything, and they should. And if you can't tell them why you did what you did, or what you think this is all about, you have a real problem, especially when the clock is ticking. With respect to India, one thing I learned from a filmmaking standpoint is when you're directing, your focus has to be on whatever is in the frame and nothing else. Like literally anything that's happening off frame, if you've chosen the right people, they'll be taking care of that. So if the world is ending outside the frame, you won't pay attention to it because that's not your job. Your job is the frame. So with India, literally was like we'd be setting up a frame and ready to go, and the world was probably ending. Like there was some crazy stuff happening. You could hear it, some accident or some fight or somebody screaming or dying or something. And people would be like, wow, look at that. And I'm like, okay, we're ready to go. It's just what's in this and what's happening there. And I also find that the filmmaking process, because it's such a privilege to get to the point to make a film, and everyone who's there usually loves making films, that you can lose yourself in the process of making film and forget that the important thing is what the film actually becomes. And that's the thing that'll last. So I know a lot of filmmakers who come out and saying that was an amazing experience, or the crew was like, yeah, because we did this and this and this was awesome. And you look at the film and you're like, wow, that's not very good. That's the thing. That's the reason you did this. That's the thing that's going to inspire other people. That's the reason we got up in the morning to do this. It was almost like you guys got caught up in the process of making. You forgot what you were doing. And maybe what you were doing was never even there in the beginning. I don't know. But to me, and maybe I have too, I don't know. But my focus has always been, this is why we were here. I find that it's very hard for me to recollect sometimes what happened on a film set because I wasn't paying attention to what was happening on the film set. I was paying attention to what was happening in the frame. So the memory of that movie that you see is my memory of the experience. It can obviously be extremely difficult to maintain your motivation after years working on a project. I'm also the type of person that if somebody pushes really hard against us, I want to push just as hard back, if not harder. It's happened on every project, including the one I'm doing right now, where things will happen against us and there's a point where everything's going to fall apart. And I say to myself always, I've come so far, I've worked so hard for so long for this, and we're so close, and I can't let this fall apart. I will not let it fall apart. And just kind of in my own life, I've come to the conclusion that if one person was to focus all of their energies onto one task, it's pretty remarkable what they can accomplish. They can actually move a mountain. And if I say I'm going to fight harder than I've ever fought, and then it'll happen. And it keeps happening that way. So it's kind of become a rite of passage now.